The United States is mourning a devastating tragedy after a mid-air collision over Washington, D.C., involving an American Airlines passenger jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. President Donald Trump addressed the nation early this morning, confirming that no one had survived the catastrophic accident, which claimed the lives of all 67 individuals on board. 64 from the commercial jet and 3 from the military aircraft. The disaster has sent shockwaves throughout the country as the collision occurred in one of the busiest and most tightly monitored airspaces in the world, where civilian and military aircraft operate routinely under strict air traffic control coordination. The American Airlines flight, numbered 5342, had taken off from Wichita, Kansas, for a routine flight to Washington, D.C. It was nearing the final minutes of its journey, preparing for descent into Ronald Reagan National Airport. The weather conditions were clear, with no reports of turbulence or storms that could have contributed to navigation issues. At the same time, a Black Hawk helicopter was approaching from the north on a training exercise. The airspace around Washington, D.C. is highly regulated due to its proximity to government buildings and military installations, making any accident of this magnitude extraordinarily rare. At approximately 8:47 p.m. local time, the collision occurred. The passenger jet was making its final approach when it intersected with the flight path of the military helicopter. Multiple videos captured the horrific moment, both aircraft moving steadily toward each other before a sudden explosion erupted, illuminating the night sky. Witnesses in the city described hearing a deafening boom, followed by the sight of burning debris falling rapidly from the sky. Within moments, pieces of wreckage plunged into the Potomac River below, where emergency responders were dispatched in a desperate search for survivors. In the immediate aftermath, emergency teams worked tirelessly through the night, battling freezing temperatures and strong river currents in an attempt to locate any survivors. The conditions were brutal. The icy waters of the Potomac posed significant challenges for divers and rescue crews, forcing authorities to expand the search area to a much larger portion of the river. Despite their determined efforts, it became evident by morning that there were no survivors. Authorities confirmed that the operation was transitioning from a rescue mission to a recovery effort. The wreckage of the American Airlines flight was found in 3 separate pieces, scattered across the river and its banks. Reports from officials indicated that at least 30 bodies had been recovered so far, though many more remained missing. The aircraft had been carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members, including several figure skaters who were returning home from a competition. The military helicopter was transporting 3 U.S. Army soldiers, all of whom perished in the crash. Recordings from air traffic control have provided crucial insight into the moments leading up to the disaster. Controllers had been in communication with the Black Hawk pilot and had issued standard instructions to maintain a safe distance from the passenger jet. The pilot acknowledged seeing the aircraft and was directed to pass behind it. However, something went terribly wrong. Investigators are now working to determine whether the helicopter pilot misjudged the position of the jet, lost situational awareness, or encountered an unexpected mechanical issue. Some aviation experts believe that the helicopter's altitude adjustments in the final moments may indicate an attempt to avoid the collision at the last second, but it was too late. At a press conference, President Trump addressed the nation, calling for a moment of silence to honor the victims. He described the incident as a tragedy of terrible proportions, expressing condolences to the families of those who had lost their lives. However, his remarks quickly took a political turn, as he blamed diversity and inclusion policies within the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, for making air travel less safe. The initiative is part of the FAA's Diversity and Inclusion Hiring Plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. His statement sparked immediate controversy. Critics argued that there was no evidence linking diversity initiatives to the crash, accusing Trump of using the tragedy to advance his political agenda. The FAA has long maintained that its hiring practices are designed to ensure a highly skilled and qualified workforce, and no official investigation has suggested that these policies played any role in the accident. Aviation safety experts and regulatory officials pushed back against the claims, emphasizing that air traffic control protocols are rigorous and that accidents of this scale are extremely rare. As the investigation unfolds, attention is now focused on understanding how this tragedy occurred on a clear night when both aircraft were following standard flight procedures. The Washington, D.C. airspace is among the most complex and monitored in the country, with stringent regulations to prevent mid-air collisions. While military helicopters frequently operate in the region for training exercises, they are typically coordinated with civilian flights to ensure safe separation. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board, the FAA, and military aviation authorities are working together to analyze all available data, including radar tracking, cockpit voice recordings, and pilot communication logs. A detailed review of flight tracking data has provided some clues about the sequence of events. The passenger jet had been descending steadily toward Reagan National Airport, maintaining a predictable trajectory. The Black Hawk, which was conducting a nighttime training flight, appeared to change altitude multiple times before the collision. This movement has raised questions about whether the helicopter crew had full awareness of the approaching jet. Experts suggest that the helicopter's movement pattern could indicate last-minute evasive maneuvers, but if so, they came too late to prevent disaster. Eyewitnesses on the ground recalled seeing the passenger plane's approach appearing completely routine until the sudden explosion. One bystander watching from the Kennedy Center described seeing a bright flash in the sky, followed by burning wreckage plummeting toward the water. CCTV footage captured the moment of impact, showing both aircraft moving toward each other before the sudden fireball erupted. In the aftermath of the crash, American Airlines issued a statement expressing deep condolences to the victims' families and pledging full cooperation with the investigation. The U.S. Army also released a statement honoring the 3 soldiers who lost their lives, recognizing their service and dedication. The airline and military authorities have assured the public that they will work to determine the exact cause of the accident and implement measures to prevent a similar tragedy in the future. The crash has also renewed concerns about aviation safety in Washington, D.C. Last year alone, Reagan National Airport recorded at least 2 near-miss incidents, prompting increased scrutiny of flight coordination procedures. While it is too early to determine whether human error played a role in this particular tragedy, aviation experts are calling for a comprehensive review of air traffic management systems to ensure that all necessary safeguards are in place. As recovery operations continue, the focus remains on providing closure to the families of the victims. Grief-stricken relatives have been arriving at airports, hospitals, and makeshift support centers, searching for answers. Crisis counselors and support teams have been deployed to assist them during this heartbreaking time. The nation remains in shock, and the coming days and weeks will be critical in understanding how this tragedy occurred. Authorities will leave no stone unturned as they piece together the final moments of Flight 5342 and the Black Hawk helicopter.